Welcome to the Niagara Sports Hub, where we'll spend 15 minutes talking NFL football and other topical sports with Mike Fisher of Sports Illustrated and Cowboy Nation. This season is sponsored by Niagara, the industry leader in high-performance, high-efficiency toilets for professional contractors like you. Learn more at niagarasportshub.com. You're listening to the Niagara Sports Hub. I'm with my co-host, Tim Ward. Tim, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, JP. How are you?
I'm doing good. And we'll bring Mike in. Mike, how you doing today?
I'm ready for jibber jabber.
Last time we talked, we thought Dallas had it in the bag against Denver, and they were a little shocking result there.
They were in the bag, all right.
They went out the night before. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't know what they did. And I guess when we review the NFL at large, we watch Baltimore lose to a bad Miami team. Yep. We watch Tom Brady go to New Orleans and lose to Trevor Siemian.
The Northwestern guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, pardon me. We watched the Rams throw 2 pick sixes against Tennessee. So these things happen. If you're the Cowboys, obviously, you don't want them to happen twice. And here come the Atlanta Falcons, who, if you aren't just right, they're demonstrating with Matt Ryan and then 2 new weapons. Kyle Pitts, the rookie tight end, who's magnificent, and Patterson, who we all know. But this is the first time that an offense has really found a way to use him in Atlanta. And Coach Arthur Smith, he's a running back, wide receiver, kick returner, and he's the guy. He's their team MVP, I think, in Atlanta. He's also the most valuable free agent in the NFL by far, given bang for his buck. So, there's still some scary things that even the mediocre Falcons can do against
Cordarrelle
Dallas.
Patterson was on the Bears the last few years, and he was always like the Swiss Army knife of players. He could return kicks and run and catch. But I think they've kind of zeroed in on him and used him properly to get the optimum results from him.
You guys saw him a lot with the Bears. He was like a gimmick guy, though, right? Okay, but now he's a running back. He's and everything else that he can do. It's weird watching 84. This tall. He's got to be 6'3" and a half, right? And weighed 230, and then he can run like a sprinter, and he's built like a tight end. And then there he is in the backfield as a running back, and it's not a gimmick anymore.
I mean, I know you'll be happy to hear this, but he's on Tim's fantasy team.
Very good. Very good.
I picked wisely, but I'm looking forward to seeing him this weekend in person. But it's weird that Atlanta has finally found a way to use him, because the Bears certainly couldn't use him when they had him.
So going back to last week's game, I just wanted to touch on something. I couldn't see the game. It wasn't in our market, the Dallas-Denver game. But I was watching it on the stats on the phone, and it would say, Dak Prescott, incomplete pass to the left. Incomplete. I mean, was it just a matter of rust or just not playing? Or what was going on with him?
One of the funny things is, and we do this in team sports, and we always have, and there'll never be an answer, when we say, they came out flat. How can 53 guys all be flat at the exact same time? That's impossible. And so that's the trite cliche we use. The fact is, they didn't come out flat. The very first play of the game was a magnificent kickoff return from Tony Pollard. They didn't come out flat at all. They marched down the field, and then they go for it on 4th and 1, maybe arrogantly. They don't check out of a run when there's Denver lined up to stop the run. They got, 11 guys in the box, and Dak probably should have checked out of that. And so Denver outcoached them, if you will, on that play. But they didn't come out flat because they had a big kick return and they marched down the field. So that excuse is bogus. This team obviously is not used to noon games, because they're, as far as I'm concerned, if the NFL could, they would put the Cowboys on every Sunday night at 7:20 every night.
Yep.
But the other teams might not like it. The other teams would make more money if they did, but they wouldn't like it. That's a viable debate point, except I don't know about you guys, but I was ready. So I don't think there is an easy pinpoint. Russ isn't good enough. Now, he did say yesterday, we talked to Dak, he said, I went back and looked at the film of it. My footwork wasn't very good. So I worked on footwork this week. So if your footwork is bad, does that count as rust?
Yeah.
That can be that. But he did have basically a full week of practice leading up to the week. So I just think the more viable excuse is bleep happens. I think that's really
one of my favorite things is, are they motivated, or what would motivate them, or somebody said something during the week that's going to motivate them. And I feel like if I'm out on the field and like a 300-pound man is going to smash into me, I think that's motivation enough to play the best I can. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not very happy as a Rams fan that Odell Beckham Jr. is now in our locker room.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they would go out. I mean, the Von Miller pickup from Denver, I understood that. Not a bad decision, but OBJ in the locker room, he can be a cancer. I'm just worried about that. And Cam's back in Carolina. That's an interesting story in itself.
All right, so Cam Newton. Cam Newton's the easy one. They didn't have any choice in Carolina. They're desperate for help. They had a meeting with Cam to kind of patch up the old wounds. I think there is an NFL understanding that it's not that Cam Newton's a bad guy or a distraction or that the fact that he seems like kind of a goofball is a problem. Yeah. Bill Belichick made that clear. He said Bill Belichick endorsed him as a person and as a player, and that's good enough for me. But when it came time for Mac Jones to be given that job this year, Bill Belichick didn't keep Cam around as a backup. And that's the issue. Cam, the reason that other teams didn't sign Cam Newton to be their backup is because they believe that he won't be comfortable with that. That he'll go out every day and try to beat out Dak Prescott, to beat out Matt Ryan. And that's not what those teams need. It's interesting that Washington and Ron Rivera, who had him in his MVP days in Carolina, he doesn't want Cam Newton to come and beat out Ryan Fitzpatrick and Taylor Heineke. So maybe Ron Rivera knows something that the rest of us should heed. But Carolina knows him well, and that'll be fun. I tend to agree with you on OBJ. I don't think it's going to be as fun as observers think it will. It's an interesting list, what they've done in the last, 4 years under McVay. McVay. I mean, they have assembled an incredible fantasy team.
Yeah.
Yes, they have.
But they haven't been good yet. Not yet. Not really. I did a comparison this morning on our Fish Report on YouTube. A receiver that most people are not particularly familiar with, Michael Gallup, who the Cowboys hope comes back from his calf injury this week after basically missed the last 8 weeks. Michael Gallup's better than Odell Beckham Jr. He's better. If the Rams had somehow signed Michael Gallup, there would be no big headlines. It wouldn't be on the cover of magazines. Nobody would barely notice. But Odell Beckham Jr.'s numbers the last 3 years, both of them excluding this year, are almost exactly the same as Michael Gallup's. He's got 13 touchdowns in the last 3 years. This is not 2015 when Odell Beckham Jr. was a spectacular player for his first 3 years in the league. That was 7 years ago. And since then, all he's done is whine his way out of the employ of the Giants and now the Browns. And the first game that the Rams don't throw him the ball, he's going to do it again. And that's the problem with Odell Beckham. It looks really good on paper, but it's never actually worked on a team.
The issue for me with the head scratcher for me with the Rams isn't their wide receiver core good? I mean, they got Cooper Kupp. I think he's leading the league in everything. And they got Robert Woods. They got Van Jefferson. They got Tyler Higg. I mean, why do you need another guy with, well, like we said, he's kind of a head case.
And they had Deshaun Jackson, but they let Deshaun Jackson walk.
Yeah.
I do think that there's some there is a movement where players are getting a bigger and louder voice. And so I wonder if, Matt Stafford and Aaron Donald go to McVay and say, let's go get him. I wonder if the Rams then listen to that voice and move that way. But this is not nearly as earth-shaking. I mean, this isn't even close to the Von Miller edition.
Exactly.
Not even close.
Yeah.
Von Miller, especially if they use him just right, which means not on every single, use him in spot duty, I think. Von Miller can still wreck your offense. Odell Beckham Jr. hasn't wrecked a defense in 7 years. I think it's flashy and fun and potentially terrible.
As a Rams fan, I don't want flashy. I don't want fun. I just want a damn Super Bowl, and I don't think he helps us get there.
Is he? I mean, you watch. Is he a better player at this point than Jefferson?
I don't think so.
Or did he just make one spectacular catch on a primetime game against the Cowboys? By the way, a game that the Giants lost.
Yep.
Usually, when they call something the catch, it's because it resulted in a playoff win, not in a regular season loss. It's preposterous. But the New York media did that, and in a sense, they did that to him. He was victimized in a lot of ways in his own head by his own singular one night, one time, one catch success.
Well, it reminded me of last night where that offensive lineman caught the touchdown that was called back, and God, everyone just went crazy over it. And after the game, they said they were going to give him the game ball, and it was an illegal man downfield. So I don't know. It was just it was nuts.
And again, I think we went nuts for that on social media, and now it'll go away
for sure.
Odell Beckham Jr. somehow never quite went away, even though he only kind of did one thing.
The Bears game against Pittsburgh on Monday night, there were some calls that, I don't know. There was one against this guy, Cassius Marsh, which I love the name, but it just doesn't match the face of this guy. But, he was called for taunting, which, you could call it. He looked at the bench, he did a stupid move. But then I swear the ref backed into him, which that didn't have any bearing on the call, it was said, but I don't know. And then last night there were a couple calls, and I heard Troy say that he had hoped that someday that they would be able to review those calls and penalties. And I know your stance on reviews, but do you agree with that?
No, Troy. Yeah. No. That means we need to referee the referees who referee the referees.
Yep.
You don't think that's a little excessive? What that ref did with the hip check, Tony Correnti. Was it Tony Correnti? Is that his name?
Correnti. Yeah.
He did the exact opposite of what I guarantee he's been trained to do his whole life. It is not his job to be in the spotlight, and he thrust himself into the spotlight. We can argue whether or not he actually hip checked the player. I don't know. Who knows? But his throwing of the flag, he acted like he was taking a champagne bottle and launching a ship in 1887, like it was the most dramatic thing that had ever happened in his life. And we have discussed this before, and I know this is a little bit old man syndrome of me, but the umpire that just signals strike three, you're out, is my umpire. The umpire that does it like Leslie Nielsen did in the Naked Gun movies, where he's doing back handsprings and signal. Just, the sport doesn't need to know who Tony Correnti is. Yep. His own mom shouldn't even know that he's refereeing a game. But boy, we know it now because he decided that he turned it into a drama. He turned it into Guys and Dolls singing in the rain. He turned it into a musical, singing and dancing and waving flags. That's not refereeing.
Hey, Kim, who was the umpire that?
Ed West.
Is it Ed?
Ed West.
Ed West?
Is it Ed West?
Joe West.
Joe West. Joe West.
Country.
Joe West. How about Joe West?
He was kind of like that guy. He made it more about him than.
Okay, and again, I just did it. I don't follow baseball very closely. I know that his nickname is Cowboy Joe. He might think that's good, but I think that's bad. I think that's bad that a baseball umpire has a nickname that the most casual fan knows. That is not good for the sport.
It proves our point right here. So anyway, let's finish up. We're almost, I guess we're halfway through the season, and like we just talked about, Baltimore losing last night, the Rams losing, Kansas City.
Chiefs look like
I don't know what's going on with them.
They look like shit.
What do you think the rest of the year? Who do you kind of think is going to come out of the pack here?
Well, we have said on this show that by this time you start to recognize who you are as a team, and I still do believe that. we've had some unusual circumstances that maybe have robbed us of that. I don't know what Kansas City is. I know that their offensive line seems shaky, and I know that their defense continues. Their defense is not good. I think we've established that. But Patrick Mahomes is continuing to have a struggling year, and it just, when you watch him, it just doesn't seem real. It just seems like that's going to get fixed. So we don't know what they are. The Rams are ever changing, so they're an unbaked cake.
Well, I was going to say, what about Dallas and the Packers?
Yeah, certainly the same thing with Dallas, where coming off the loss as they did, you get to question what they are. I think we have a pretty good idea what Tampa Bay is. I think that's pretty established. Don't you guys agree?
I do. I think they're waiting for the playoffs.
Yeah, and they know. I think they know what they are. They've been there before. They know not to panic if something went wrong. Baltimore's defense looked like it wasn't very good, and Miami last night looked like they solved Baltimore's offense.
Yeah,
Baltimore's offense, to my eye, looked really confused last night. And Brian Flores and that group down in Miami, they did something right on defense, because they absolutely confounded the brilliant player who is that Baltimore quarterback.
I feel like I could have gotten open on some of those passes against the Baltimore defense.
Well, and then you have a team like Buffalo go down to Jacksonville and just stink it up horribly. So who's Buffalo? Who?
Right.
I'm not sure what the hell that was last weekend.
Now, I think that we know what Buffalo is. I think the Buffalo thing is a lot like the Dallas thing, where because they're coming off that particular outing, we wonder. But ultimately, I have a lot of confidence that Buffalo's going to win home games in the playoffs. I'll tell you, no matter who they play. And Tampa Bay is going to win home games in the playoffs. I believe that too. Beyond that, I would say there's still a lot to be determined.
Mitch Trubisky, my friend, Tim, they need to bench Josh Allen for Mitch Trubisky. Get him in there.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I think it might actually be, the Atlanta Braves thing where, you just get hot at the last few games of the year or into the playoffs.
Tennessee. Tennessee is a team that I could see Tennessee running the table as well.
And isn't it weird that Tennessee, we still have some faith in them, even though they lost the guy that helps them run the table, Derrick Henry.
Exactly.
But what they did to the Rams looked real, and their receiving crew, obviously, if everybody's healthy, is spectacular. So, put them on the list too.
And at the end of the day, I think there's something about Vrabel that just comes across that this guy gets it. He's one of those player coaches that just is down and dirty and makes sure all the X's and O's line up for that game plan. I'm a Mike Vrabel fan.
Yeah, sometimes you get a guy like him. Dan Campbell of the Lions comes to mind, who is just all meathead. And I think Mike Vrabel is half meathead.
Yes,
I think he's also got an intellectual football side. And again, it's if you find that guy, then you've got something special. And maybe they have that in Tennessee.
Well, Mike, thanks for jumping on again. I know we kind of emailed you last minute here, but it's always great to talk sports with you.
Well, I enjoyed the chance to do it, and of course, the chance to represent Niagara and have fun with you guys in the hub. It's always great. So tell the world,
definitely,
because I really do believe that again, and you guys create this atmosphere where we're just three guys sitting in a bar, or in this case, in a coffee shop, and we're kicking it around with some level of know-how. Hope.
Also, Tim is planning to go to the game on Sunday, so maybe you guys can.
I will be at the game on Sunday, and I might actually get to meet the famous Mike Fisher.
That's right.
Yeah. Message me, and I'll come running. We'll do that.
Tim can go up in the press
Sounds
box.
Great.
I'll get you a Mechanical Hub badge, Tim. You can go up in the press box and.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll have a great weekend,
gents.
and we'll talk again soon next week.
All right, fellas. Thank you.